Okay. Yes. After I do the guided meditation, I'll let people unmute as I call on whoever wants to ask their questions. All right. And if it's your first time with me, periodically I close my eyes during session because that allows me to tune in more easily and especially to get in the best state to receive the information for you all. I always set the intention for this group session and for every private session that I'm receiving the best, most loving, most useful, most supportive information and guidance for you. And your job is to also acknowledge you're in charge of your own life. I'm not an authority over you. I am not going to give you information that will intentionally be creating harm or havoc. My goal is to share clearly what I receive and you find out how do you make that work for you? How do you fit it into your life? And sometimes there is discomfort as we grow, as we expand, or if you've been holding on to something for a very long time and it's time to let that go. And the theme of this month is manifesting. However, you can have a question that does or does not relate to manifesting. That's perfectly fine. All right. And we're taking in a deep breath and we're accepting that even though I thought we were starting at 11, we didn't start at 11. And we're all in the perfect place at the perfect time with the perfect level of presence that we're able to have. So taking in a deep breath in through your nose, you're welcome to keep your eyes closed or open, whatever is most comfortable for you. And letting the air flow wherever it needs to go in your body. And with your exhale, releasing the carbon dioxide, releasing everything that you want to let go of. With your next inhale, you're taking the breath in. Imagine that it's filling you with energy and oxygen and vitality. Releasing it with an exhale whenever you're ready. With your next inhale, you're taking your deep breath in, letting it go all the way down through your body to your feet. And you're picturing you've got that strong connection from your feet to the ground. You may feel like your feet are like a magnet that's magnetically pulled to the earth. Maybe you imagine there's roots coming from your feet to the ground. Or maybe it feels more like water rushing from your feet into the earth. However it feels, however you like to best imagine it, it's fine. Sometimes I actually imagine it's like there's a chain that's connected to me, that's locked in, connected into the earth. Connection still gives you the ability to have the level of freedom and movement that you need. So you're feeling that strong pull, that strong connection to being grounded. And I'm going to focus on this for another moment or two because everything that you want to bring into your life, that you want to call in, that you want to manifest, that you want to achieve or invite in, first having this foundational feeling of being grounded, of being rooted, is what allows everything else to come from that. There's no one listening right now, either listening in this exact time or to the replay, who wants to benefit from being like a free floating dandelion seed floating on the air and taking wherever the wind blows you. Even if you value your freedom, there's still something so integral to you feeling that rootedness, that wherever you go on earth, You're deeply connected to the ground. You're magnetically pulled and held and supported. And that allows your foundation to build up as broad or high or deep as you want to build from that foundation. But that's your foundation that you can return to, that lets your energy get plugged in, get energized. I'm getting the visual of like when you charge, your phone or another electronic, it pulls in that electrical current. And so for us, we are getting grounded so we can have the connection to that electrical current that flows into you and charges you up. So taking in another deep breath and feeling the knowledge and the knowing that you're charged up and you're being powered up, and we're getting to full battery today, or as full as you can go, which it might also mean energetically that there's going to be a few apps you're closing out, a few tabs you're closing, a few things that interfere with the powering up that we're going to gently release. So with your next inhale, calling to you all of your energy, all of your resources, all of your attention into this present moment. If there's anything that you have to do in the next hour, in the next day, in the next week, you'll remember that as you leave this call. The things that you need to remember will come back to you. Right now, you're able to be fully present, to be fully here, to feel that delicious feeling of being alive and being in the present moment. With your exhale, you're releasing everything that feels like baggage, that feels like negativity, that feels like it's blocking you from being fully here, from being fully present. You're letting it all go. And you don't have to effort to let it go. What's ready to go will go. And if it's not ready to go, then it's sticking around for a reason. So taking in another inhale, letting that flow into you. Okay, I am gonna name this. I don't know how long we'll spend on this, but there's a sense as all of your energy is coming to you that, yeah, it feels like for the majority of us, there's a sense of your brain wants to catalog some things. That's the visual and the word that keeps on coming to me of organizing, grouping, categorizing. So there's a really common idea of the spring cleaning. And in the cleaning, it's not just you sweep out the cobwebs, you sweep out the dust, you put away winter things, bring out spring things. What's really important is the whole finding the places where things go and categorizing things. There are some things that need to be categorized in a linear way that is kind of like if you use a file cabinet, whether it's physical files or digital files, once those things are filed and organized, you mentally do not have to use the energy to keep those things in place. And then all of your energy can be directed to different means. It seems almost comical to me that I'm spending time talking about organizing, although if you saw my desk, you'd be like, no, I see why you're talking about that, Rachel, because this is also for me too. I'm like, I clearly need to catalog and organize and put in linear arrangement some things. One of the things that I want to highlight is for all of us moving forward, this is a very essential step. It's not a nice to have. It's not a, oh yeah, I will get around to that, but first I have to do the thing that actually moves things forward. What I'm seeing is that very clearly, aside from everything else that comes up today, in the next 3 to 7 days, you need to set aside time to address this whole organizing, categorizing, cataloging of things. Okay. And the benefit is this is what sets the stage. This is what frees up the energy for the forward movement. Years ago, I was reading a lot of manifesting and spiritual books, and I was really, at first, didn't notice, but after like the third or fourth book, they almost all start with talking about organizing and decluttering. And after like the third book, I was like, okay, this is the trend. Everybody talks about this, or most everybody. And again, I think it's very common when people think about spring cleaning and decluttering, the whole move things on and get rid of things. But your consciousness wants to have a way of cataloging things. There are times when labeling things and categorizing them is not useful. However, this is a time in which this is the number one step that we all need to take that will build the foundations for later. Okay. And I think it's so important. That's why I'm saying this, even though I already said it in one way. See if there's anything else I need to share about that, or if we're ready to get into your readings. Okay. And so some of the time when I share things, depending on who's hearing, you may have a logical understanding, or you may start piecing it together and think, oh, okay, this makes sense. And then sometimes I'm simply sharing what I need to share, and I don't know how it will land or whether it will make logical sense. But what I know is that the words have an impact on your energy field, on your consciousness, and all that. And so this cataloging that I'm seeing, to me, it is a layering and a categorizing of things that's vertically organized. Do I have a vertical file folder? I do, but it's over there, so I can't reach it. But I have one that's like a sideways one. What I'm seeing is, and again, if you're like, I don't even know why you're getting into the nuances of vertical versus horizontal. This is what I don't know who it's for or how it's for, but start with the vertical orientation of things, whether that's books, vertical files. And then once you've done enough with that, then you can move into the horizontal files of things. And also what I'm seeing is that if this is something where every part of you rejects and does not want to do this at all, then I'm asked to show you to think of it like cake layers, and that to have a really lovely cake, these cakes like at a wedding reception or something where there's so many layers and it has this effect, that is what you are creating for yourself. That is what is the benefit of it, is one layer. Sure, it's great, but 5-layer cake makes people just, wow, that's amazing. And oh, it tastes so good. And there's enough cake for everyone. Okay. So two or three ways that you can take this. One is to see the way to access your abundance is to allow yourself to do this categorizing, this organizing, knowing that that allows you to set the stage for future abundance and present time abundance. Also, if the way some people may want to think of it is reward yourself with cake at the end of this, if you like cake as a reward, or let yourself imagine that organizing is as sweet and delicious as cake. All right, let's see if there's another thing I want to say about this. I mean, I could definitely talk about cake some more. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons I'm smiling is, to like Mary Poppins, I think is the one who's like, spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. If categorizing and cataloging is not an area that feels satisfying, then we just mentally engage ourselves with thinking of it as you're making this cake. You're creating the layers. There's the icing in between. There's the decorations of it as a way of getting yourself excited about doing it, because this is where the abundance comes from. All right, let's see if there's anything else I need to say about that. And if you reach a point where you're like, I'm not building a wedding cake, I'm just trying to get enough done to like catalog so I can move on to the next step, great. Make a 3-layer cake, that's fine. Like, it's okay to stop when you've reached the stage of completion that was enough for you, but all of us need to do some of this cataloging and organizing. And also, the last thing I want to say, whether or not this is your first time listening with me, the word choice is usually specific to elicit connections, reactions, associations. So for me, when I hear catalog, the immediate thing I start thinking about is seed catalogs, because those are the catalogs that I get. I do not get any others that I enjoy getting or that I get on a repeat basis that I'm interested to see. And so my association for me is, okay, so from this cataloging, it's very clear to me, my seed collection and gardening supplies are not organized in any way. So I need to organize them. And back to the whole cake thing, a catalog is visually appealing. They set things up so that it makes you want to buy it in one way or another. Or, there are catalogs like in the library of catalog of organizing information. And so if you can set your things up that you need to organize in a pleasing way, this is also why it fosters the abundance moving forward, because you walk into a space, it's clean, that things are organized in a way that's pleasing to you, and it just uplifts your energy every time. When I send out the replay for this, or in the description box below, I'm also going to link this one woman. I don't remember her name right now, but she teaches organizing for different types of brains, like whether you're ADHD or whatever. And it was the first time I saw somebody talk about organizing where I thought, oh yes, because I'm a visual person. And so if things get put away, I forget that they exist. But if everything is cluttered and stacks, like you can't see my desk right now, but it is, that's not pleasing to me. It's not energizing. It's not helping my abundance. So I need to look back, like, how does she, well, I'll show you the one thing. I haven't put it up yet, but like this is clear, but this is like a file folder and a file folder thing that is going to allow me to hang it up and organize in a way that visually makes me feel really good and does this cataloging process. And I'm smiling to myself, because if any of you are here or for the replay are like, oh my gosh, why is she talking so much about organizing and file folders for manifesting? I know it might seem mundane, but we're setting ourselves up now in March so that the rest of the year is like, we're ready to go. And again, like, if that's what you have to tell yourself to get yourself to do it, awesome. Because this is how we set that foundation, kind of like we ground it in to open up all the abundance. Because it might seem simple, but every day in your life, the things in your environment are either supporting your energy moving forward or have a neutral effect or are pulling away from it. And these things that we need to catalog right now, they're either stagnant energy or maybe it's neutral, but it kind of feels like it's having a pull on you or a drain rather than energizing you. So let's get us all in the place where our environments are fostering us and energizing us. Okay, I'm just closing my eyes to see if there's anything else to say about that before we jump in. The last thing I'll say is if it doesn't actually matter who does the organizing, as long as it is satisfying to you when it's done, something that when you look at, you feel good about. Okay. I think that's all there is to say about that. So raise your hand or put in the chat if you have a question that you would like to get insight on. And so mine recognizes my hand automatically, I think, visually, but under the reactions button, you can click on it and it'll allow you to raise your hand. Okay, cool. All right, Patty, I'm going to ask you to unmute and we'll start with you.
Great. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
I haven't seen you in a couple of months.
Yeah.
I've had lots of new awarenesses, and something recently has come up, and I'm having trouble accessing some information that would help me move forward. And I had a bumpy childhood. I know you might remember that, but I've come to recognize that the pattern in my life growing up was to not be nurtured. It didn't mean I didn't have clothes or a house or all of those things, but there was no nurturing of who I was as a person. And I realized that about 3 weeks ago. And as I've looked at that and listened to other people in my recovery group talk about that, I recognize that that's a huge block now because I'm missing a whole piece of what most people have when they grow up. And so I want to heal that. And the language around healing that is not, I'm not accessing that somehow or another. And so I thought there might be a possibility that you could give me a thread to help me find some kind of way to work in that area.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing with us. And so, okay, I'm feeling a feeling, but as I start to talk about it, we're just going to pause for a moment and us are gonna, what it feels like to me is we're all going to tune into, if you wish, that ache in the heart that comes from not feeling nurtured. And it's like if we take it further, then it goes into like not being loved and not being cared for and just like a loneliness ache that almost seeps in, like when there's a warm room, but it's like there's cold air seeping in the wintertime, it's the draft, and it's like, and then it starts affecting everything. Or I also get this feeling of, oh, when you add like ink to water or something, and all of a sudden the ink just over time it diffuses and everything has that color, even though it was not a large quantity of ink that got added to the water. So, okay, so naming and describing this is helpful. That creates some feeling of, okay, this is seen, this is witnessed. When I tune in first, I see what feels like your inner child. And I don't know that she literally did this, but what she felt like she wanted to do was go to her caretakers, the people in her life, and like stomp her foot and demand, like, I need these things and you're not giving me these things. I need love and sweetness and whatnot, and and just to have, it kind of feels like the things that would have made life special. I don't know if you would have described that you got the utilitarian things of like you said, you had clothes, you had food, but it feels to me that there was a part of you that like wanted a dress with ribbons or wanted the extras. It's like you don't just want to have clothes or like, a plain cake. You wanted a cake that had like lots of icing and flowers all over it, or the dress that had so many decorations and the crown, tiara, maybe is that word. So, and whether or not the little you ever spoke up about it, there was a bit of just be grateful that you have things, be grateful that you're fed, be grateful that you people are caretaking for you, even though in your imagination, in your awareness, you thought so much more is possible. And this is what makes me really sad and emotional to tune in, because it feels like that little girl was like, why could they not see how much more was possible? And they wanted you to live with the limitations that they believed were just facts of life, whereas you were like, look at all these things that we could do. Like, you don't have to live like this. It feels like this little girl, if we're talking about manifesting, she totally got the whole, you're in charge of your life, you can make things like you want it. And whether or not that's what you literally said or not, like, you knew that at a deep level, and your caretakers were totally oblivious to that and kind of like, well, this is life, this is what you do, you pay taxes and then you die. Like, it felt very much, and not that they were satisfied with it either. It felt like they just accepted it. And you were constantly thinking, why would they accept something so bad? And not bad, like everything is bad, but it's like, why would they do that when there are possibilities out there? It's like, even if you didn't know people who lived with the more delights and joy and beauty and all of that, you knew it was possible without a doubt. And they wanted to teach you that it wasn't possible. And I saw for a glimpse, it sounds like Kelsey says, Patty, I resonate with this energy and reading. She grew up the same way. Not being heard almost, mom not allowing me to be myself and not be validated. I feel this and I'm with you. Okay. So I'm going to tune in here. So our goal is, I think the goal is healing, and keep on getting this visual of this hollow shell that is being broken. Like we're just smashing it with a hammer. And there's a few things to say. So first, I want to state for the record, for us all, any one of us who chooses to live a life with the ribbons on the dress and the flower icing on the cake, or the icing of all decorations and designs, anyone who chooses to live with the more open, imaginative, we can make life what we want at point of view. We are not doing this to negate our caretakers or to judge them, because I feel there's a part that is concerned that if we choose a different path, there's like judgment being cast onto them. And so we are doing this without casting any judgment. We have compassion and love for them. And they kind of didn't know how kind of bad and clueless they were at it. So, and I'm not saying if there are feelings of animosity and all that, we're not getting into all of the whole relations, but we're just saying we're not judging them because they had that approach, and that is how they were. For moving forward, if we're breaking the hollow shell, and then and the hollow shell is kind of like their way of seeing things. That's this hollow veneer that if we break it, then we cannot go with that model of living. Okay. Some of the healing, I think, comes from energetically, there's a part of you that feels like there's such a contrast between that way and your view that if you break their view, smash it with a hammer, and then it's a hollow shell, and you're like, okay, we're going to leave those pieces there. It almost feels scary and floundering and ambiguous if there is no, once you get rid of that structure and then choose to live the other way. So, and now I'm seeing why I talked so much about this whole cataloging thing. Even if you believe that anything is possible, intellectually or energetically, your system still needs to have like benchmarks or categories to work within. Otherwise, there's a sense of feeling lost and not being able to use all that potential and energy and channel it. And so it's like we're gonna smash their worldview. I just it kind of makes me laugh. There's the smashing of the hollow shell, and now I want to see what happens next. Like, how do we create a structure? Interesting. I remembered this story this morning from my life, but I didn't know why I remembered it till right now. So a couple years ago, well, over a decade ago, my husband and I were living in Toronto, and we went into this mall, and there was a gift shop that had really lovely Christmas decorations. And we were thinking about buying some, getting ready for Christmas, but I either didn't like the prices or felt like, I don't know if we should be spending our money on this because we had just moved there. He was still job hunting. Maybe I was still job hunting too. I had a part-time freelance contract and we had some savings, but we didn't have a ton of money. So spending money on Christmas decorations was a little bit, I didn't know if that was feeling frivolous or not. Well, then we're getting ready to leave the store. We decided not to buy anything. And I often carry a bag like this with random things in it, water bottle, snack, my journal. I always have something to write with. I was not being aware, and my bag knocked into an angel sculpture and I broke it. And there was a big sign in the store that said, "You break, you buy." And so then I was like, ugh. And my husband looked at me like, "Do you want to make a run for it?" Which is not what I would normally do. But I was so tempted because I was like, I did not want to, like, I was already like, okay, we decided we didn't want to buy anything. And now I'm going to have to pay $50 for a broken thing when, like, he doesn't have a job. I'm only working 5 or 10 hours a week. I forget what my contract was. And it was like, but I just remember thinking, I'm just going to own this and take responsibility and not run away, even though I know I probably could run away. And, after I decided I wasn't going to run away, one, because that doesn't really fit with my ethics, but two, I was like, I'm sure there was a mall cop. Like, even if we had run away, it was probably going to be worse because I might have been arrested by a mall cop. I don't know if they actually arrest people, but I'm assuming they're there for a reason. So, long story short, I paid for this thing. My husband was grumbling. Um, Even though we're at that point, we're both like, this is what being an adult is. You pay for things you didn't want to. So he wanted us just to throw it away. And I was like, no, I paid money for this and I am taking this home. And what I did was the angel wings actually still looked pretty good. Like the angel itself was mostly smashed, but the wings were gorgeous. And I thought, if I just set the wings on my mantle, no, it doesn't look like the full original sculpture did, but you can still clearly see that they're wings, either of a big, beautiful bird or an angel. And so for years, every time it's Christmas time and we get out our decorations, I pull out these broken angel wings and I set them on the mantle. So what we can do is what we were given, even if we break this hollow worldview, this hollow way that the others gave us to work with, there's still pieces of that maybe are broken, but that we can find useful or beautiful. And it's kind of like, this is our material that we're working with. It's also interesting to consider that you could make something better with the broken pieces than the original people made with the whole pieces. And it's almost like, wow, okay, I get it now. It's like when you have the broken pieces, yes, you could say, oh, this is broken, but it actually gives you more to work with. The angel sculpture, there's only one way you're going to put it on a mantle, like forward facing and the wings are behind it. Like you might angle it a little bit, but that's that. With the broken wing, I could set it so it's like they're forward or backwards, or I could put it in a planter pot. We could put it on the tree if we made sure it wasn't going to fall. There's actually so much more possibility and potential with the broken pieces than with the original when it's in its whole shape. So us breaking the pieces, the person who's not us is going to look at it and be like, you just broke this thing and now you got this broken thing. What we see is, no, we're breaking this thing so we have pieces to work with that we make work however we want to. The old point of view, there was one way that it worked and it was super limiting, but this new way, yes, we're doing what's called a breaking of this hollow thing, but then we take those pieces and we make them work however it works for us. And then if you're ready at some point to get rid of those broken pieces, cool. But until then, it's not broken in a way that, oh, this is a broken thing and let's just throw it in the trash and be done with it. And it's okay. This part makes me emotional because I don't know why, but there's still a part of me that almost wants to cry about this whole scenario. And for all of us, this scenario of like, yeah, there is some sadness about the breaking of it. And the breaking allows the potential to be freed up. Anytime there's a seed planted, the seed is beautiful and its little bean seed or squash seed or its little container, but it has to break out of that to create itself, to be the plant that it was going to be.
Yeah.
And my favorite quote from the prophet is, your pain is the breaking of the shell that holds your understanding. And so it's like any of the pain and the grief and all of this that we feel, if you just hold yourself with it and say, like, this pain, this is me breaking out of that shell. This is me breaking the hollowness. And then you get to take those pieces and create whatever you wish. I wish I wouldn't have thrown away that angel wing. I don't know what year we threw it away. I'll have to ask my husband. It also makes me think, I mean, I love sweets. I love savory too, and veggies. Like, I like all food pretty much. But when there's those, sometimes it's an eclair or like a chocolate coating that you have to like crack it to break it. Creme brulee is not the chocolate, but it's like got that hard coat that you crack it and then you get to all the goodness. Like the breaking of that is what allows us to access the goodness. Patty, related to your specific scenario, what I also sense is, if you have physical ailments, is not exactly the right word, but physical symptoms that are either of like heartburn or heartache or like stomach indigestion-y, it feels like as you move through this healing, those feelings to me are associated with it. And you may not have those physical feelings, but when I first tuned in, that's what I felt in my body. It's like from the throat to the stomach, this whole like indigestion, nausea, the heartache, but also then it's the expression, because how much people don't always take children seriously.
Right.
And especially if they're trying to get their needs met, and if the people feel like, well, we don't know how to meet those needs, or we don't have the money to meet those needs. So I definitely feel like the healing and the imagining, it's going to create some soothing effect from, your stomach to your throat, all those chakras in between. Hmm. How does that sit for you? Do you think, is this a helpful thread that's going to help you?
It is. There's lots of good meat in this pie that you gave me.
Yay! Bon appetit, madame.
Merci beaucoup.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, thank you for asking this question. We all needed this so much. And I'm so glad, because when I had that memory this morning, I was just feeling sad and thinking, why am I remembering this today? So that was my preview of why I was remembering it. So thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you.
Elaine, Kelsey, do either of you have a question you want to ask?
Yes, I definitely do. Because you just brought up more shit than fits in any bucket I've got.
Oh my goodness. Grab more buckets. You need a bucket catalog.
Yeah. I used to be a neat freak. There was a place for everything and everything in its place. And I don't know what happened, but I started saving everything. And just recently, well, I've had 3 or 4 different spurts lately of having a day or two of, well, let's go through this stack of papers and throw through all the old receipts that I don't need. They're not a tax deduction, get rid of it. I don't need it. But I have been lived below poverty level all my life. Maybe there was 2 years out of my 78 years that I didn't. So it's like, and I made some notes while you were talking of if I have something that I'm not using right now, I can't get rid of it because I might need it later.
Yeah.
And my dad was a hoarder.
Mm.
He says, every time I throw something away, 2 days later, I need it.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the aspect of, okay, I'm not using this now, but I spent money on it and I needed it
Yeah.
then. So it's wasteful to throw it away.
Right.
So, any ideas on how I can get past this crap?
Yes, I have a lot of ideas. How much
Okay.
time do you have? I'm just
I'll
teasing.
make the time as much time as you have ideas you want to share.
Okay, so I have a few things, but first, tell me a little bit about your mom, because I need to ask about her. We heard a little bit about your dad. Was your mom the neat freak, or was she a whole nother kind of freak?
My mother was a religious freak, drove
Oh,
me out of
yeah.
my gourd with
Goodness.
dragging me off to church every time the damn doors were open. I had to be there,
Gosh.
even if it meant keeping me out late on Sunday night when I had to get up to go to school the next day. And it pretty much made me, don't mention JC to me, I'll rip your tongue out.
Yeah.
And
She had the
I'm okay
opposite
with,
effect of what she thought she was doing, it feels like.
yeah, I'm okay with the word God to a
Mhm.
point, but
Mhm.
I can't handle JC. And she wanted everything clean and neat and all this stuff, but she wanted me to do all the work.
Mm. Goodness.
But I mean, it wasn't that she wasn't doing things.
Yes.
A lot of times it was to the point if we ate it, we had to grow it or we weren't going to eat it.
Yeah.
So there was working in the garden and putting stuff in the freezer and the canning and the this and the that. And I grew up doing all that stuff too.
Yeah.
But it was an old house, small, but you could have taken a white towel and wiped across the den floor
Wow.
and it would have still been white when you got on with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I was the one down on my hands and knees doing all this cleaning.
Wow.
So, that had some reverse effects too.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what I can say. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, first, I'm just laughing because when you said that you don't care for JC, I got this vision that he's like, look, if you ever do want to hang out with me, he's like, the vision of him he's showing me is not the stereotypical, although if you ever look at memes online, you might see one like this. He's showing me smoking cigarettes, like the bad boy JC that maybe nobody knows about. He's like, that is showing me legs crossed, maybe even wearing high heels, like trans dressing.
Hey, he
So,
wore a dress his whole life. What do you figure?
yeah, yeah. So he just wants you to know that one, he doesn't mind if you never care to hang out with him again. But if you do, he's happy to hang with you, however. And I feel like one of the things you're doing energetically right now is like a rebalancing of influence from your mom, influence from your dad. In a lot of ways, energetically, I see no problem with you being a hoarder, quote unquote, for a year or two, because it almost feels like it's, like I say, having this rebalancing effect. There's a part of you that almost wants to go in the extreme just to experience it, just to like see, oh, this is what this feels like. Yesterday I was playing this dice game with my daughter, and first we were playing for personal best. And then we were both not having the greatest time, and then we start getting competitive. And if I'm winning too much, she gets mad. So then I joked with her and I said, let's try for our personal worst and see how bad we can do. And this was a time game. So we were trying to take as long to finish as opposed to finishing rolling the dice as quickly as possible. And what I realized, like a minute into doing it, I was like, I'm having so much more fun playing for my personal worst than my personal best. And I feel for you, this relationship with stuff, it almost feels like for you to resolve it, you almost need to go for the worst, this personal worst, rather than personal best, because there was so much like rigidity and striving and cleaning, and things had to be a certain way almost to like hold life together, that, you know, because like your parents' generation, that was not an easy generation to be living in, you know, like there were a select few who it, I think, was okay for, but for a lot of folks, it was like life was scraping by and you couldn't mess up because then you were screwed. And so, you know I talked all about that cataloging thing. For you, you may pick one small area and be like, that's my organized area. And otherwise, I want to have all the things I think I need. And I want to have a whole room that's just full of extras. I mean, you may or may not want to do that much, but my mother-in-law, who passed away recently, she had a lot of stuff. She had a whole room full of extra things for like, who knows why. And that gave her some level of comfort or satisfaction. Over the years, we cleaned out some of the stuff and made the room emptier. And then we would come back the next year and the room was full again. So what if you don't stop yourself from hoarding for a little while? Like, could you let yourself just say, guess what? This is my hoarder year. What do you think?
There's a big piece of me that loves order.
Mm,
And with all this stuff that I have, there's no way to make it orderly. Because, like in old small houses, there's not a lot of closet space where you can hide the stuff. You got it, it's out in the open, and you and anybody else that strolls through is going to see it. So I'm sick of it, but I seem powerless.
okay. All right. Let's see.
So scoop me some power.
Okay, I'll scooch you some. And tell me when you feel powerful, what is that? Well, a few things. I'm curious how you feel powerful, but also like, is there something you want to do this year that if you're feeling powerful, you think you probably would do?
I'd have a neat, organized, beautiful yard again.
Okay.
I have a lot of flowers, but a lot of flowers there's also a lot of oak trees and pecan trees around me. So there's lots of little trees coming up in the flower beds.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to go away.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And okay, so you want to have your flower bed all neat and blooming and bright. And when you have that, how do you feel? Like, do you spend time out there a lot, like every day? Or what do you get out of having that?
Well, I'm an outdoor person. I grew up outside as much as was possible to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy working in the yard. My body doesn't allow it as much as my mind wants to do it. But one of my absolute most favorite things to do in the world is to cut my grass. People come by and, their lawn service and they want to no, go away. Get out of my driveway. Nobody's cutting my grass but me.
Uh-huh.
So fortunately I have a riding mower, even though it's a small yard, because I can't walk that much anymore.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad you have that mower.
It's also kind of my meditation time.
Mm-hmm. So, well, one of the things I was seeing before was if you could notice the areas that you have richness of things. I can't really use the word gratitude because what I feel like when I say gratitude, it feels like energetically there's a part of you that's like, oh, that gratitude crap. That may not be exactly how you say, but it feels like you're resistant energetically. I'm not saying you're resistant to gratitude, but the word gratitude is not a good way for us to get there, but that's kind of the feeling I'm going for. So, but there's this push pull of you have these things and you want to get rid of some of them. And ironically, in your yard, you have an abundance of new trees coming up, except you're not building a forest. You want to have a flower bed. So let me see what else I can say about this. Well, one of the things that I keep on feeling, which you can decide, it might be an automatic yes or no, or you might think about it, is you may want to see if you can put out the word, if any of your flower beds are big enough that you could share some of them with other people. I keep on getting this sense of someone else might come and maybe take a portion of your flower, like irises that you have too much of, and then you say, oh yeah, and can you help me like weed this one section while you're here, getting that out of there. Or the person comes in and helps you organize, and then you say, fine, you get to take 3 things from this room when you leave that I want to get rid of. Like that, there may be something about bringing in a helper who also is taking some of the excess away. And whether or not that happens, I get the sense of like walking around your house or your yard and just thinking, how amazing is this? How much I have. Like, I am so rich that I have all of this stuff. And I keep on thinking of one of those fairy godmothers or somebody who's got like a magic wand and they're like, boo, boo, and they just touch things with their magic wand and they turn one thing into something else. This to re-engage with some of this power is to start seeing how much you have around you, and even the wealth of like 78 years. That's pretty awesome because not everybody gets to 78 years, like, and I feel like you got more coming too, more years ahead of you. So it's like you've got a wealth of years, you've got a wealth of intelligence, experience, things in your house, things in your yard. If you can have every day where you're looking around and you're like, look at all this that I have, to me, that feels like it gets the flow starting. And at some point, there will be this energetic divide where there's a part of you that's like, I feel so rich, but I don't need these things over here. Right now, my richness means I want this space to be cleared. But the push pull of you collecting things is there's a part of you energetically that really wants to have the feeling of a wealth of things. And so while it's there, why not enjoy? And I'm looking at my desk thinking, I guess I need to be like, I have a wealth of paper. I have a wealth of files to file. I have a wealth of index cards full of information, and letting yourself almost have like this rant of like, oh, how much I have, like, look at how much I have. That's going to energize you enough at some point to be like, well, I maybe don't need this one thing that I could get rid of because I have so much and I'm so happy for it. That feels like that's the best way to work about this. And it will allow you, again, like I said, later there'll be this energetic divide where you'll be like, I'm going to get rid of some of these things, but then you will be getting rid of them from a place of feeling really powerful and wealthy. And there's one other thing about this that I think I want to say before I move on. And then I think we're almost done. Okay. I think also there's this push-pull relationship with the amount of work it's going to take to do these things, and a feeling of, I don't know if you would say you've worked your whole life, you've worked really hard, and now you kind of just want to enjoy and not work anymore, but then you look around and you see things to do that feel like work. But okay, that's what I thought. Part of it is also like, there's a part of you that's angry you have all this stuff, and getting rid of it is going to be work, and how annoying that is. And again, we're going to kind of flip to see you have all the time you need to work with this wealth of things that you have to work with. And I think if you cannot rush or not feel rushed, like I have to take care of this, I have to do this now, but more, I have enough work to do to keep me busy if I want to today. And if I don't want to, then I'm just going to go mow my lawn again for the second time this week because I like doing it. A little bit of, yeah. When I was talking about the fairy godmother with the wand, a little bit of the whole, I can do whatever I want energy would be really delightful for you, because you have had so many circumstances where you had to, I mean, even like you were saying about growing up, it's like you had to go to church, even if you wanted to go home and sleep. And it's like, you're not going to be feeling happy if you feel forced to do something, because you've had enough of that. And so you've got plenty of time, you've got richness of time to do the work. And when you don't feel like it, you're not going to force it. You're just going to go do something fun with a bippity boppity boo attitude of like the fairy godmother who's like, fine, I'll just pretend like, I could wave my wand and this one thing turns into something else. In the short run, I don't know how much stuff is in your spaces, but can you cover some of them with a sheet so you don't see it, or like go to another room? Like, I feel like asking you to deal with it is not going to work, but if you cover it with a gorgeous sheet and you're like, I'm just going to pretend like there's nothing there, you know what? Things like that feel like it would be fun. And you might even be like speaking to your mom in your mind, being like, how do you feel about that, mom? Or a little bit of whoever would be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she would do that. Great. That kind of like, take that. I'm just going to ignore all of this and mow my lawn for the third time because I like to do it. I think that would feel really good. And then eventually you'll be like, okay, fine, let's take the sheet off and actually do something with this stuff.
I don't know about the sheet to cover stuff up, but I do kind of have the propensity to put a bunch of stuff in a box and close up the box, and then I can't see it.
Oh, yeah, me
Same
too.
thing.
Yes. So that's fine for right now. And maybe you find a nice, what do you call it? Not wallpaper, wrapping paper that goes around that box. So the box even looks prettier, those decorative boxes.
I have
However you
some of
want to
that
do it.
too.
You do? Oh, good. Play around with that so that you feel free and you got a wealth of boxes. Oh, so rich in boxes. I think then in a couple weeks or months, it's gonna shift how it feels.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You
Kelsey, we
notice you
got,
had Patty grinning and almost snickering
oh,
about some of
yeah.
these things you were saying.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Thanks. Kelsey, do you have a question you want to ask? We still have some time. I got to wrap up close to 12:30, but I got time.
Okay. So I don't really have a particular question. I think that Patty's reading was meant for me too.
Oh,
Um,
good.
yes, in that aspect. But if you have anything intuitively for me, I kind of just like have my hand in every spiritual bucket right now. I'm like on the path of ascension. I'm sure that you can tell from my Facebook posts. But yeah, if you have anything for me, I am open to anything.
Okay. Great. Good, good, good. And I'm glad that Patty's reading. It works out like that, where it's like what one person had and needed to hear, another person did too. So
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm. Well, okay. I feel like this might open a whole nother can of worms, if you will, but I'm gonna see if we can
Oh
move
goodness.
through it smoothly. I'm not gonna share like crazy personal details or anything, because I usually don't see all the things, but I get the
Yeah.
sense of some of what's happening right now in your life and the things that you're doing are almost, I, I'm just gonna state the words as they come, even, and
Okay.
just so you know, it's not in a judgy way, but
Oh no, you're fine.
okay, the word I'm getting is some of this feels like it's a distraction so that you don't feel there was someone in your teens-ish, a male, and when I say teens, it
Hmm.
could have been age 12, it could have been age 14 or 15,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
who really disappointed you, that's maybe putting it mildly. And I don't know if this person was troubled themselves, but I feel like they hurt you and you had expectations and they didn't meet those, and that it feels like it's still kind of a hole in your heart. Is
Mhm.
this ringing a bell for any circumstances that you can think of? Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm in the process of healing some trauma from my first husband. We were actually together from the age of 14 until about 19 years old.
Okay.
And he actually, I'm in the process of healing from it, but he actually was really emotionally manipulative and controlling, and actually took my kids away from me when I was in my postpartum depression
Oh my
era.
gosh. Ugh.
Yeah. So that definitely resonates with me for sure.
Yes. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna look into, huh, you were saying healing, which is great, but then when they're
Mm,
saying it's a distraction from seeing the pain of what happened, I
mhm.
want to have that all come together so that I can see, is there a piece of this that I can share for you that's super helpful? So how it sometimes works with me is I have to share what I see first and name it, and then I'll see if anything else comes up next. Cause I feel like this probably isn't all of it. But what I'm seeing is, and this could be something you physically do, or you could do in a visualization and you can see if this fits or not, but it feels like I get this vision of you in a field with not exactly a voodoo doll, but something that represents that time in your life, all your anger, all your frustration, and you like stabbing this sack of potatoes with whatever you want to
Yeah.
stab it with, a lot of anger getting out, a lot of like raging, but not at an actual person. So if something
Mhm.
like an escape room feels good to you, but for some reason, one of the things I get about this whole field is like this sense of letting yourself go somewhere where nobody's going to see how mad you are and how much rage just wants to like pour out of you. And the rage feels like it doesn't just want to be a scream of sadness or whatever. It wants to be like causing damage to something else, like
Mm.
hurting it. And let's see if there's anything else I can say about that, because whether or not, I don't know if at the time or since then, it feels like there's a part of you that is just violently angry about how you were treated and all the circumstances and all the failings around it, and that wants to be expressed. And the part of you knows, like, I want to express this in a healthy way, not just like, go
Yeah.
stab some random passerby. Because that would actually create things a lot worse for you. Do you feel any of that anger or rage that I'm talking about? Or have you experienced any
Yeah.
of that?
Yeah, but I feel like it's so suppressed. It's almost like I don't remember much about like my childhood, especially my teenage years, because I've just kind of blocked it all out.
Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that that does ring a bell for me. Like I should be able to have some sort of outlet to bring all of that out once and for all.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And one thing I'll say, I know I was saying like stabbing a quasi voodoo doll, which to me seems, and some people might be like, whoa, Rachel, that's way extreme. But like what I do in my yard sometimes is I do what I call like rage weeding or like angry. I just get out there. I have some English ivy in one section and I'm just like pulling things out that maybe if I used a shovel or some tool, it would come out easier. But it's like I literally want the struggle of like ripping it out of the ground, or like I have
Yeah.
this one little saw and I've been hacksawing this bush that I'm getting rid of. And my neighbor was like, do you want to use like an electric saw? And so I did. But then the other day I was like, sometimes you just like want to work out and be like sawing something all angry and physical. And so for me, and who knows, Elaine has a lot of things in her yard that she needs dug out or weeded. Maybe you connect with her, or maybe in
Yeah.
your yard you could. I feel like something like that where it would let you express some of this, because honing back in on this word distraction, I some of the things it seems that you're doing and your spiritual journey and exploration is amazing, but some of them is the reason I'm using the word distraction is the part of you that's raging and angry. It's almost like we're taking, this like rabid dog and we're being like, we're going to put a really nice collar on you and you're just going to have a great time, puppy. And the puppy
Yeah.
is like, I'm so pissed off. Just let me be mad. Let me run around. And it's like, you can, until you release that, you can't get to the sweet side. And there's still parts of you that are like sweet and connecting to, deep spirituality, but it's like we don't want to deny what needs to be expressed.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, it seems like release is coming up every day in all of my
Oh
studies.
yeah.
Release, release, release.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's good. Do you have anywhere at where you live that you can go do some rage weeding or chopping down of branches or trees? Or, I mean, don't take a whole tree down that, is gonna like fall on anybody's house or anything.
yes, yeah, I do. I actually just moved into a place that needs a lot of work done outside.
Mm.
So that's what I'll be focusing on this spring and
Oh,
gardening and things like that. So yeah, that's a good
yes.
idea.
Yes, that's awesome. And the earth, it can take this stuff. Like if we put it on another person, they're like, whoa, violence much? But the
Hmm.
earth, like it can take you hacking away with a shovel. And so letting yourself, when you're out there, when you're working, giving yourself the permission to be like, this is how I'm letting these things flow out. And it's really be so nice that you can release it. And the other thing I want to say, which maybe you're aware of, is, or maybe you're not, I don't know, but if you are aware of it, is just reinforcement. This is the perfect time for you to heal this and deal with it because you couldn't have done it before. And
Hmm.
this is the time in which you can really come to this state of completion and release and move forward in a way that allows you to like truly set your life up and set yourself up for how you want it to be. And so if there's a part of you that's like, oh, why didn't I know that sooner? Or how did I let this happen? Or why did I even marry him? Those kinds of thoughts aren't really that helpful. And so if
Hmm.
those things come up, I would just kind of imagine like a trash can and like, nope, those are trash thoughts. More, you're thinking your whole life has set you up for everything is like even better. Like you set yourself up in the best way. And now, yeah, you got to like work through this, but the rest of it is going to be amazing. And we're not regretting or judging or I mean, if you have some regret, it's okay to feel it. But what I don't want you to do is judge your past self for what she did, because all of that brought you to now, and what you do with it
Hmm.
now is going to set you up for so much goodness coming forward.
I love that.
Good.
Yeah,
Mm,
thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome so much. And yeah, I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing, that you're not with that person anymore. And, probably some
Hmm.
of it, I don't know if you've heard things about like the wounded healer or people who love so much that they essentially try and help somebody else who's got a lot of problems, but that person didn't
Yeah.
really want help. I almost feel
Yeah.
like the you were with him for what felt like the right reasons for you of wanting to care for this troubled person. What you
Mhm.
didn't know is how it was worse than any part of what you could see. But like I said before, moving forward, it's like you learned in such a big way of like how, you won't get in a situation like that again. And your energy will be so well used with all of the beautiful things that you'll be creating moving forward.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Patty, I felt like, did you want to chime in?
I just wanted to say to Kelsey that her piece also helped me with some things that I didn't even mention. So yeah, I really like how
Mm.
this group just kind of we all fed each other. So
Uh-huh.
Yes.
yeah, so thank you.
I love that. Well, and in one of our past calls, or maybe two, I offered if people want to stay in touch. So I don't know if y'all want to share in the chat or if you want me to share each other's emails after this, but if it feels like it would be helpful, hey, I encourage you to do that because, you know, when somebody else knows what we're going through, I just always feel like, wow, I don't have to explain everything. Like you already get like half the story, it feels like, rather than when people are just like, oh, I never knew about that. Oh, must be hard. It's like, it's so much nicer when you know that somebody can really understand what you're going through too. Oh, and I'm looking at the time. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna wrap it up. Thank you all.
If you want to send my contact information out, that'd be fine.
Okay,
Great.
okay, I'll do that. Great. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, me
Thank you for
too.
your generosity. Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Oh,
Yes,
you're welcome.
thank you
All
so
right,
much.
I'll put you three in touch. Have a lovely day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.